I can't be damaged as easily. It's more dangerous for you understand?
God, I would do anything to...
She knew she couldn't have him anymore, so she killed him and took back the
Objection,
ugly necklace.
Hi guys, welcome to our channel. A girl who grew up in deep swamps is suspected of murdering a man she once had an affair with. A worthy lawyer undertakes to represent her to prove her innocence, unaware that a big secret is hidden in her story. Check the title of the movie in the description. The film opens in the North Carolina forests on October 30th, 1969. On the brink of the marsh, next to a tower, two boys are riding their bikes when they discover a dead person. They contact Sheriff Jackson and his colleague out of sheer terror. The latter identified the deceased as Chase Andrews, the town's all-time great quarterback. Police are taken aback since they have not found any tracks in the vicinity, either of him or anybody else. They ascend the tower and realize that Chase may have fallen. However, Sheriff Jackson remains dubious of this judgment. The results of the autopsy confirm that the victim's death was caused by a fall of 63 feet. According to the evidence, he should have fallen on his back, so it is suspected that someone may have pushed him. Red fibers on Chase's denim jacket and the lack of fingerprints on the tower railing both lend credence to the idea that he was killed. Two detectives overhear a group of locals blaming a marsh girl for killing Chase later that night while they sat in a restaurant. Curiously, however, they are completely unaware of her name. Their only information is that a girl known as Marsh Girl lives in the forest and is completely insane. The police go to Marsh Girl's residence out of suspicion but find something completely unrelated to the case. They peek inside since the door is open, and nobody seems to be inside. To their surprise, they spot a red hat, the likely originator of the red fibers on Chase's clothing. Marsh Girl, whose real name is Kaya Clark, hides in the woods. After a couple of days, they track down Kaya while she's out on the lake on a boat. She hoped to use her swimming abilities to escape, but destiny had other ideas. The townsfolk have already decided that Kaya was involved in the murder, and they are beginning to form a coalition to discredit her in the hopes that she will be convicted and sent to prison. Visiting Kaya in her cell, retired lawyer Tom Milton plans to assist her in proving her innocence despite the public's widespread hatred against her. On the other hand, her classmates, who will only recognize her as the Marsh Girl, will serve as her jury when her trial occurs. Tom insists that if Kaya wants to be freed, he needs to hear her true story. Kaya remains silent at first, but just before Tom departs, she reveals some personal details about her history. She transports him to 1953, a full 16 years ago. There was a time when Kaya had a family and a mother who brought a smile to her face every day. Besides Jody, who adored her, she had 4 siblings who were no longer in her life. While Kaya and her sisters are playing in their dad's boat one day, a neighborhood lad called Tate comes to their home. Kaya's dad is aggressive and Tate attempts to protect her, but instead, he gets a stern warning about never coming back. Her mom, Julianne, eventually leaves the home because she can't take her husband's abuse any longer. Even if Kaya attempts to intervene, Julianne ignores her cries. Her siblings seem to be leaving her behind one by one since she departed, making Kaya feel even more alone. Last, she must part ways with Jody, who has always been there for her. Jody's departure is heartbreaking for Kaya, and he is understandably sad to leave his little sister behind. Before he leaves, he tells her to hide in the swamp if she gets in trouble, where the crawdads sing, just like Mom said. After everyone departed, Kaya took note of their errors and started to stay away from her father, Clark, to spare him his anger. Tate, a friend of Jody's and the son of the fisherman, crosses her path one day. His presence alleviates the pressure in her chest because she hasn't felt anything other than pain since her mom and Jody departed. Every day, Kaya gains the bravery to beg her father for more food. He takes her to the store one day, but he can only purchase grits. As soon as Mabel and Jumpin, the store owners, realize what's happening, they will treat Kaya kindly. Mabel goes to great lengths to get Kaya to attend school, providing her with clothing and free candy as an incentive. After gathering the clothing Mabel had given her, Kaya sets out for town, where she meets Tom, who shows her the way to the school. Things worsen on Kaya's first day of school when the other kids criticize her for her untidy clothing and unclean looks, ultimately leading her to leave school forever. Boating and her chance meetings with Tate provide her with the comfort she needs to live in this harsh world. The time passes, and Clark treats her well, even offering her his old war bag. There was a glimmer of hope for Kaya as her life started to improve, but a letter from her mom ruined everything. Instead of letting Kaya have a chance to read the surprise letter from Julianne, Clark burns it to ashes after reading it. He informs Kaya that her mother will not be returning. Kaya, distraught at having lost all hope of ever seeing her mother, holds on to the letter's ashes in the hopes that they may provide her comfort in some way. As Kaya sits inside, utterly oblivious, Clark, later that night, sets fire to his wife's possessions. The day finally arrives when Kaya learns the horrible news that her father has abandoned her as well. Her survival chances are low because of food scarcity and other essentials. After that, Kaya goes to the water to get mussels to sell to Mabel. Jumpin gives her food and other necessities like a candle and a matchstick in return for some money for mussels every week. Unlike Jumpin's businesslike attitude, Mabel feels sorry for her and sometimes gives her shoes and clothing. Even though it is the current day, Mabel continues to give Kaya the clothing she wore during her first tryout. Back to the now. At the trial's conclusion, she will face the death sentence if convicted. An attorney for Chase's family convinces the jury that Chase Andrews was pushed to his death after being enticed to the tower by Kaya. Meanwhile, Tom soothes Kaya and informs everyone that Chase's lawyer's statements are unsupported by proof. In front of the jury, Tom mentions Kaya's clear background, which is more palpable than the unproven evidence. Tom suggests to Kaya that she can accept that she had an argument with Chase on the top of the tower on the night of the accident, which resulted in his unexpected death, in which case she will be sentenced to 6 years in prison. But her silence can have terrible consequences. Life imprisonment, or even execution. With a flashback to 1962, Kaya is now a grown girl. The guy in the woods is someone she sees often, but she has never met her. In addition to a spark plug, seeds and a feather, the stranger gives her some unintelligible writings. When they eventually meet in person, he reveals that he is Tate, her childhood friend. Tate offers to teach Kaya to read and write after a disappointing talk between the two. Kaya takes an enthusiastic interest in learning and finds a talent for writing as she progresses from learning the alphabet to basic biology. She now has an unmatched understanding of area birds, feathers, and other animals, and her sketching abilities have reached an amazing level. She and Tate get closer throughout the years as they share stories of grief and healing. They start dating after showing one another so much love and care. When they want to experience their first love connection, Tate suddenly regrets, and admits that although he wants her with all his heart and cares for her, he can't be damaged. In the meantime, social services have started looking for her. They're collaborating with contractors to clear the marsh so a hotel can be built there. Despite these obstacles, Kaya's life seems swimmingly until Tate reveals the shocking news that he is going to college. Kaya is unable to contain her feelings after hearing the news. Tate wants to study and become more than simply a fisherman, which goes against her thoughts about their relationship, but she wants him to remain. After much heartache, Kaya bids him farewell. However, not before Tate gave her a list of publishers to whom she may submit her sketches and notes. He believed her work was exceptional. In addition to promising to return on the 4th of the following month to watch fireworks with Kaya, Tate also says he will never forget her. When he finally departs for college, Kaya is back on her own. The day when Tate is returning has finally come, and Kaya is overjoyed to see him again. She spends the whole day at the beach waiting for him, dressed in Mabel's outfit. Tate fails to appear, however, and Kaya is left feeling deceived and worried. Afterwards, she spends the night alone watching the fireworks, and the next morning, she finds herself in a world without Tate. After destroying Tate's memories, she returns to the swamp for comfort, but it seems she will never trust anybody again. Back to the now, using the now destroyed fingerprints and tracks as proof, the sheriff who is investigating the site of the crime claims that Chase's death was a murder. But according to Tom, the high tide must have washed away the traces. Next, Tom brings up an important fact that the court has to hear. The sheriff had asked the U.S. Forest Service to fix the faulty grates in the tower a year ago in writing. The sheriff had warned that the grates may cause serious harm or even death if not fixed. Kaya thinks back to 1968, the year she met Chase and his family for the first time at the beach. Kaya heads home before they can have a conversation. Still, she spots another developer taking pictures of the marsh on the way. When she visits Mabel's shop, she learns developers are buying property to construct hotels. Mabel then urges her to do everything it takes to preserve her family's final memory. After she leaves the shop, she encounters Chase, who plans to win Kaya's attention by helping her. After accepting his date offer, Kaya goes to see the land registrar. This official shows her the document of her grandfather's ownership of marshlands. But to retain it, she must pay back taxes of $800. Kaya decides to send her samples to the publishers Tate mentioned in the message since she has no other way to make money. She hopes to hear back from them. Afterwards, she goes on a date with Chase along the beach, but things get worse as she begins to believe he thinks she is useless. After seeing his mistake, Chase escorts Kaya to the fire tower to offer his apologies. They start hanging out more often as time goes by. Even though Kaya was still unsure of her feelings for Chase, she felt relief from her loneliness, which was sufficient. Now in court, The red wool discovered on Chase's denim jacket the night he passed away must be shown. Kaya is allegedly engaged in the murder, according to Chase's lawyer, as the fibers from her hat and the jacket match identically. The fibers might have been transferred onto Chase's clothing during any of their earlier contacts, according to Tom, who immediately argues that this could have happened weeks or months before the murder. Once upon a time, Kaya got a reply from a publisher so enthralled by her book that they wanted to revise and publish it immediately. Chase gets a promotion at work, and they celebrate the night for their success. He proposes marriage to Kaya, informs her that he will be going on a business trip soon and asks her to join him. He takes her on a romantic getaway to a hotel, where she has her first sexual encounter. On their first date at the beach, Kaya discovered an exquisite and unusual shell necklace, which she now presents to him. Currently, according to Chase's mom, the police suspected Kaya of taking the necklace before murdering Chase since they couldn't locate it on his corpse. However, the lawyer and Chase's mom had no proof to accuse her of, as the police could not locate the necklace, even after searching her home extensively. When Tate returns from college, he finds Chase and Kaya together and happy. After that, when Chase makes lewd remarks about Kaya's physique in public and behind her back, he swiftly realizes he isn't the right man for her. When Tate has had enough, he confronts him, and the two grow violent until Jumpin steps in. Curiously, the fibers discovered on Chase's jacket are also on Tate's head. Afterwards, Tate pays a visit to Kaya, who is understandably angry with him for vanishing without a trace and failing to respond by letter to inform her of his condition. Tate says he's sorry he left her. He didn't return because he thought Kaya couldn't handle leaving the marsh and adjusting to a new life. However, he realized that he was completely dependent on her. He has just started working at a lab close to town and wonders whether Kaya might forgive him. She honestly doesn't know. Everything was swimmingly between Chase and Kaya until she ran into him and his buddy in town, and the girl introduced herself as Chase's fiancée. The fact that Chase continues to behave as if nothing transpired between them betrays Kaya, and she takes refuge in her home. Chase shows up minutes later, but Kaya flees into the woods to avoid being caught. She will not let him take advantage of her again, no matter what. After her novel is published, she can pay her taxes and regain possession of her home. She restores and rebuys the 310-acre property with its oak woodlands, marshes, and lagoons. After seeing Kaya's book at the shop, her brother Jody suddenly shows up one day. Now he's in the military and reveals the truth about their mother's failed attempt to reunite with her children. But then Clark threatened to beat the kids unrecognizable if she got in touch with them again, so she stopped. Unfortunately, Julianne's savings for legal representation were wiped out when she became ill with leukemia, and eventually, she died. Chase tries to re-enter Kaya's life after seeing her success. Still, she repeatedly rejects him, and he loses control and tries to sexually abuse her. Even though Kaya manages to get away by hitting him with a rock, she still threatens to murder him if he bothers her again. A fisherman overhears the death threat and comes forward in court to testify against her. Since Chase's assault, Kaya has been hiding in the bushes outside her home at night because she feels frightened all the time. When Tate sees how Kaya is doing one day, he is enraged to discover that she has bruises all over her face. He wants to beat Chase up, but Kaya begs him to just let everything alone so she can go on. He urges her to go to Greenville to meet with her publishers, and before he leaves, Tate gives Kaya his red hat. Even though Kaya may have retained the hat, the fact that wool fibers from it wound up on Chase's jacket begs the issue of how they got there, given that their relationship had already ended. People watched as Kaya departed for her meeting in Greenville the week after. Later that night, Chase passed away, and she had dinner plans with the publishers. However, according to the publisher, they met with Kaya again the next morning, and she seemed to be totally well. Still, Chase's family lawyer finds out that they slept at different motels and proves that Kaya stayed at one near the bus terminal. He asserts that she murdered Chase while traveling the bus into town at night. Jody, Mabel, Jumpin, and even Tate expressed their support for Kaya on the final day of the trial. Tom tries to defend Kaya again by mentioning what Chase's family lawyer said earlier, that it's tough for her to leave town on the bus without anybody watching. In addition, she needs to track down Chase in the dead of night, entice him to the tower, murder him, erase all evidence, and then after doing all of this in under an hour, take the final bus back to Greenville. A plan that Tom thinks doesn't make sense. He says that the judges should disregard the opinions and speculation about the Marsh girl from her whole life and base their conclusions on the evidence in this courtroom. Tom assures Jody and Tate that they will have to accept the judge's ruling regardless of what it is as they wait for it. After that, a choice was reached. Everyone has been waiting for the verdict. She is not guilty.
Not guilty of first-degree murder of Mr. Chase Andrews.
Kaya and Tate make up after the dismissal of their lawsuit and decide to spend the rest of their lives together in the marsh, relishing in its natural beauty. When Tate asks whether they will get married, she assumes they are. Over the years, Kaya has continued to write her novels and has been visited often by Jodi's relatives. And so it is that they remain a couple, sharing the marsh as they age. One day, while Kaya is alone on a boat, she sees her mother's ghost guiding her to paradise. Tate finally observes Kaya's death on the boat as he watches with tears in his eyes. In the days that follow, Tate finds a book among her possessions that has a quotation that reads, "Every creature does what it must to survive, which means that for prey to exist, its predator must die." There is a sketch of Chase next to the quotation. At this moment, he discovers the blood-stained seashell necklace that has gone missing. Because of this new information, Tate concludes that Kaya did in fact kill him. At the movie's end, Tate throws Chase's necklace into the river to keep the secret from being revealed. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.